all, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. I am doing fine, and I hope you guys are doing well. As I said, it's a morning, so I'm waking up. But sometimes I have something that I just have to say on camera when it comes to my mind, and this is one of these things. So this video here is about raising children in the modern world. Okay, modern is relative, and I'm using those words deliberately because we are all at different stages, like in our lives, and some of us have been fortunate for generations, and some of us are fortunate for the first generations that are fortunate, and some of us are still struggling with life, and we all have struggles. Some struggles comes financially, and some struggles come in many ways, but this is about raising children. One of my friends was talking about how fortunate our children are to be growing up at a time where you as a parent basically have to do everything with them. As you already know, I grew up in South Africa, and I grew up in pretty much abject poverty. And I grew up in literally the slums in the townships of South Africa. I went to DT schools. DT is Department of Education and Training, which were schools designed for Black people, so that you don't have any skill, but you're still relevant to the system. And so I come with that background, and I've been fortunate enough to go to university, and to also my husband to go to university, and that enabled us to live a better life than we grew up with. But the challenge is a lot of us were first generation people who've graduated from college and happen to have jobs. The one thing that we want to do, especially once we become parents, actually we swear it when we are young, that when I grow up, I want to have a better life, and I want to be able to provide for my children and be able to do the things that I wish I had and I couldn't have because my parents couldn't afford to. A lot of us grow up with that in our minds. So once we have children, that's what we try to do. So we always say, and you've heard it many times, I'm not the first person to say it, a lot of people say, I want to give my children everything that I didn't have, at least the things within my means. A lot of our children, we end up buying them cars. We end up, those who live in America, if you're in South Africa, you might have them use your card, and they may go and take a driver's license, or you may buy them a car while they're young. So we do that. In fact, in South Africa, a lot of kids are growing up with help at home, where they don't have to do anything, because guess what? Mom has hired someone who's, living in abject poverty, and they have to work for them for very little, and therefore the children don't have to do much, right? So that is the challenge that I want to address with this video, because as I said, when we were growing up, our parents had no choice but to basically leave us to our devices, our own devices, as their kids, because a lot of them worked. In my case, my mom worked in town. Town means in the white areas, so she had to wake up at the crack of dawn every day and go to the office. She worked as a tea girl in a bank. Tea girl, that means she served tea to people who worked at the bank, and this were the good old days of South Africa, where people, if you worked in the office, you were treated like very well. And so she would wake up in the crack of dawn and make sure that we were dressed and ready for school, because she wanted us to understand how valuable that was for her. So by 5 a.m. we were already dressed, sitting up, basically waiting for our friends who their moms stayed at home to wake up so we can all walk to school. And we did that, since I was in first grade. That's, that's how it was. And so but that's what she wanted to instill in us. She wanted to make us, she wanted to make sure that we understood that we needed to go to school. So we'd go to school with our friends, and also, when I was little, since I moved to Cape Town at the age of 6, I would walk hand by hand with my mom, or hand in hand, I should meant to say, hand in hand with my mom, and we would go sell whatever she could put her hands in, or stuff she created. She would sew pillows when she comes back from work, and she would do like knit jerseys, like sweaters, what we call jerseys in South Africa. It's actually called sweater in America. She would knit sweaters, and we would, go and sell them. So we had to learn the value of hard work at a very early age. We had chores, we did everything. My mom would not be working hard at work and then have to come home and do a lot of work. So fast forward to my generation. So I'm raising my children at a totally different time, and I want to give my children everything that they had. The one mistake I didn't do was to not give my children chores. My children grew up with chores. They grew up with pretty much understanding the value of education. Basically, I imparted the same values that my mom imparted on them. But I also made sure that my children pretty much never needed anything. Food, clothing. I would buy them so many clothes and make sure that they were well dressed, because these are the things I wanted to do when I was young and I couldn't afford to do. And so as a result, to them, clothes is something that's meaningless. It's just something to dress, because they grew up not wanting them. And as you know, a satisfied need does not motivate. So they are not motivated to get the latest clothes and everything. To them, it's all about getting dressed, and that's it. And dressing appropriately. And so they grew up, because they grew up with a lot of clothes. Sometimes I want my kids to look cool because that's what I wanted to do. And they're like, Mom, we don't care. And again, that's growing up with a lot of privileges. When it came to driver's licenses, when it came to them being able to drive at an early age, I made sure I did all of that. And of course, they grew up in America, so as early as 14 and a half, they can get their learner's license, and at 16, their license. And so I wanted to make sure that I take care of that. When it came to them and when it came to them and making sure that they apply for schools, I was a hands off. They didn't want me to do anything. That's the kind of thing that they understood was important to me. So they applied everything they applied. I never even saw their, their letters to universities and stuff like that. They just said, Mom, I need to pay for admissions, this, Mom, I need to pay for this. And I just paid, and never had to look and see what they were applying for. We talked about it and everything, but everything was left to them. So this video is to say, even if we are middle class people who are first generation people who can afford, we still need to be very careful as parents, because ultimately, you want your children to still understand the value of hard work. You still want your children to understand that, I don't have to give you everything. And you see a lot of issues with a generation of kids who don't know how to be go-getters. They don't know how to be, okay, if I need something, and I'm guilty of that, because I always ask my children, hey, how are you? How was your day? Do you need anything? And my husband absolutely hates that, because he feels like if you ask them if they need anything, they should know what they need and they should come and ask for it. Even if it's asking mom and dad, they still need to come and ask for it. And then you provide them when you can. And if you can't, they need to understand that you cannot. And they should go out there and look for it. And I see a lot of, parents thinking that, it's not that we think that consciously, it's just that we want to provide for our children, but we're really paving a road to hell with good intentions, because now we raise a generation of children who don't know how to go get us, because they have no real needs. They never, like hunger and poverty is a great motivator. Sorry, I'm not saying that poor people always are go-getters, or people who are well off are not. This is not to say, this is just a generalization that I'm making, that you learn from an early age that you gotta go out and go for it. You gotta get out, and learn how to do it. A lot of kids in, who are poor, really what they lack is not the motivation, but access, how to do things, how to get them, and stuff like that. A lot of us, our parents were not equipped to help us, so they kind of were hands off, because even when it came to university, my parents did not help me in any shape or form, because they were not in a position. I was the first person in my family to really go to university. Not the first person to go to university, but really the first person to graduate. But my parents could not help me as well, because they were not in a position to do so. And most of us were the first people who had more education than our parents, and therefore our parents were not in a position to help. So this is to say, we have to be creative. We have to understand that even when we can afford, we still need to make sure that we let our children, we give them the independence to grow, because ultimately an accident might happen where you're not there to help them out. You want them to be in a position to help themselves. And sorry, my battery is running low, so I'm going to try and stop here. But I hope you got the message, and I hope you have ideas that you can comment below and let other people know what you've done in your family to make sure that your children remain independent, and they remain hungry for success, and they remain motivated, even if you can provide for them. And yeah, any help you can provide here in the comments, I'll appreciate it, and I'm sure other people will appreciate it too. So I hope you guys are doing well. Sorry I had to cut the video short, because I'm literally, my battery is almost dead. Hope you have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like this video. Please thumbs it up, and make sure you share it, because I know there are lots of parents who can appreciate this. And make sure that you subscribe if you're not subscribed. Okay, thank you. Bye.